Welcome back to Inside Politics as we continue to just take stock of what happened in the country in terms of politics this week. And just before we went for the break, you were eager to respond.
Yes, to respond to what Owila had indicated, that you do not need to reduce the cost of production in Kenya, that instead you can offer maybe a specific subsidy to farmers.
But I did say
But you know, there are many people in Kenya who are in industrial area who do all other businesses. So the long-term and sustainable goal is just to reduce the cost of production in everything. So whether you are a farmer, whether you are a teacher, whatever you do, that the cost of production is reduced. But the main issue, I think, is the policy communication coherence. There are a number of these cabinet secretaries need to appreciate that they are no longer activists, or they are no longer people who just speak. That every single word which comes from their mouth is taken as a policy position. Other people take it even as law. So majority of these cabinet secretaries and public servants of rank are there for advice that they cannot afford to speak in a manner that, even if they are joking, majority of Kenyans may not think that it's a joke. They may think that this is actually a policy position that you're communicating. So in my view, before they engage in these speeches, they need to sit back and ask themselves, who is the audience? I mean, they need to do audience analysis and also the message analysis. Because Kenyans are very ticklish right now. They can easily get nervous, while in fact the CS was joking, but they may not take it as a joke.
All right.
But I did say that.
Yeah.
I said that you don't have to reduce the cost of the factors of production, but you have to find a way of incentivizing farmers, because they're in the business that is meant to make their lives better. And they can only do that if whatever they produce fetches the maximum that it can fetch in the market.
All right, so now let's just talk about another issue that happened this week. And President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga engaged in a Twitter spat over the ongoing hearings of the removal for IEBC commissioners, that is Juliana Cherera, Irene Masit, Francis Wandedi, and Justice Nyang'aya from office by the National Assembly. President Ruto was first to hit out at Odinga and other opposition leaders, stating, and I quote, "The lords of impunity who destroyed oversight institutions using the handshake fraud should allow Parliament to hold rogue officials who put the nation in danger by subverting the democratic will of the people to be held to account," Ruto concluded. And now new orders is rule of law, not wished of big men. In a quick rejoinder, however, Odinga, who Thursday faulted the hearing, terming it a revenge mission, said there is due process and natural justice. Things aren't just done at the whims of the executive. Odinga continued to hit back at the president, stating that, and I quote, "The rule of law must prevail and not your jungle laws that you want to institute so as to subjugate Kenyans to a conveyor belt system of elections come 2027. Now, Raila, Ruto, Twitter, it's called a tweet. Now, they seem not to be speaking the same language because of they're called the Cherera 4. Parliament is on that process. Ishmael, in terms of the law, what does the law says when it comes to removing commissioners from office?
Yeah, in the Article 251 of the Constitution clearly says if a commissioner, or whether IEBC or any other independent commissioner, is unable to perform their functions, maybe because they have become bankrupt, or they have become, sick, or they have violated the Constitution of Kenya substantively, then they can be removed from office. And the conditions are laid down there. And I think that it is a process that is considered legal to say that I am not happy with this commissioner and I would like this commissioner to be removed by way of law. You should not go and hold their collars and throw them out of office. That is not constitutional. So I think the Constitution then means that any petitioner can present such a claim to Parliament, to the National Assembly, and I think that's what the four or so petitioners have done. I think there is no issue about the legality of removing them, because the petitioners have followed the right way, and the members of Parliament are coming down, to listen to the petitioners. There is, however, the magic twist to this, which I think we are concerned about as observers and as analysts and as professionals. Our concern and main concern for us is the President William Ruto, His Excellency, is a player in this, in the sense that he came out of these elections and he won on the basis of what these 7 people did, it would be so mature politically and democratic of him to divorce himself from the whole process and if there is any honest petitioner who feels like Cherera and the other 3 should be removed, that should be an independent process. The president should not appear to be tweeting to say that these people should be removed, because these people participated in a process that actually made him to win. If they did not participate to make him to win, then again his winning becomes again questionable. Don't also forget, Dennis, that during the Supreme Court hearing, the judges were so clear about can a decision of an individual, whether chairman or commissioner, be respected? No. They found that no one can, you cannot validate a decision of an individual. The decision should be cumulative. The only way Cherera 4 were actually, relegated to you did not do the right thing is because they did not sit in the boardroom until the tip end. They were supposed to be there during the announcements. They were supposed to sit there. And these complaints of theirs, they would have come and still make them out here probably after Chebukati had made the announcements. But then again, now we start asking, if the 4 commissioners pulled out because they were not happy with what was going on, as per their opinion, and the commission had still over 24 hours before the final hour of reporting these, results. So what is wrong with a commissioner expressing his own opinion? It is protected under the constitution that if you're sitting in a boardroom and you think that the chairman or the other commissioners are not really doing what is required by law according to your assessment, then as an independent commissioner, you can differ with the chairman, you can differ with the other commissioners. And we have seen this in Judicial Service Commission the other day when they could not agree. One commissioner, Masharan Jeru, who represents us at the commission, actually wrote a letter and they complained that the process that was being followed, he was not in harmony with the same process. So this particular process of removing the 4, I honestly believe that the president should have nothing to do with it. A honest petitioner should go to parliament, let them assess, because this thing will come back to actually bite the same people now who are trying to remove them. Because if this goes to the president, as a proposal and probably goes back to court, the kind of things which will come out will definitely bite those who are pushing for the moment.
Now, here is President Ruto saying the law has to be followed, the process has to take its course. Appears to, according to him, the president is playing a part in it. Raila Odinga was in parliament to also express himself on the same. Is it a question of, I support this team and I'm not happy with this team?
Well, I think that is what comes out in the public domain. That it is now perceived as a question of the president has a position and Raila Odinga has a position, which then takes away the veracity of the legal process which Wakili has clearly stipulated. Anyone can go to parliament and petition the removal of this, any commissioner in any constitutional commission. But you see, the entry of interested parties who are the main contenders in the last general election now makes it a lot more political than legal. But if you ask me, and we go back to the pronouncements of the Supreme Court, there is no basis other than political, to start hounding these commissioners out of office. For the simple reason that whichever way the Supreme Court decision would have gone, would still be in this situation. Why not to favor the president, Dr. William Ruto? Then we would be talking about Chebukati, Boya Mulu, and Abdi Gulie. Now that it favored President Dr. William Ruto, everyone is thinking that the Cherera 4 were the bad, egg in that commission, which to me defeats the essence, because ultimately the election of President William Ruto was upheld on the basis of the entire commission. So if they are culpable, all of them are culpable. And the Supreme Court pronounced itself and said that the kind of manual assignments that were given by Chebukati was in contravention of the law. And in the history of this country, for once, the Supreme Court, instead of making rulings, was actually pronouncing edicts on what IBC should have done. That you did wrong here, you should have done right here. The instances where they said you did wrong, it is not for the court, and Wakili can correct us here, it is not for the court to tell people that you did something wrong, you ought to have done this. The court is supposed to pronounce punishments. So they were not punished, you see. And the election of William Ruto was upheld, meaning that all of them had misgivings in the entire process, you know. And the choice of deciding to move away from Bomas to go to Serena probably might have been overboard. But going to Parliament and being pushed by a certain political formation to punish these 4 commissions is speaking of political dishonesty in this country that we all know. And I'm saying that because just before the election, there was a petition to remove Chairman Wafula Chebukati and the 2 commissioners, Abdi Gulie and Boya Mulu. It never saw the light of the day. It never even took shape in Parliament. Then all of a sudden, because there is one part of the political formation in Parliament that has majority, they've fast-tracked this. And someone wants to make us believe that it is the law. It is not the law. We went through an election that was very acrimonious, and Kenyans were very peaceful, respected the decision of the Supreme Court, in as much as most of us don't agree with it. And we need healing in this country. When you start attacking individuals who are just doing what they believe is right and push a political agenda in the legal framework, then you're probably speaking a language that is not helpful in this country today.
Dismas, let's just take a call from Habib Omar before we come, and you also give us your views on the same subject. Habib Omar, you're calling us from Nairobi. Many thanks for having time on Inside Politics. Good morning.
Hi, Dennis. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. Let me talk about the maize. And I'm not standing in for Kuria. Kuria, maybe he was saying that people who have maize right now, they take maize to be bought by the government. I think that is exactly what it means. You know, after that, maybe they will be able to if the maize, they are shortage, they will be able to import maize. But he should be talking, he should not be bringing jobs into issues, because some people may not understand what maybe he's saying. Let me talk about the Cherera 4. Cherera 4 would have created anarchy in this country. The last minute of the election, you can imagine, and people are getting away from the bombers of Kenya. I don't think that was right. And when the Wakili there says that the president should not come in, the president is saying the petition, the law should take its course, and the parliament has already taken over. You remember Hassan, who was the chairman of the electoral commission, is the person who resigned about himself. If you find you are mixed, you are being mixed, and your situation is clouded with so many difficult things, the point is to resign and go home. But what I'm saying, Parliament also can push them out. You know, if they so decide. Not about majority. About majority doesn't really come in. But the best thing also here, a petitioner who think they did well, they also petition the court. But now this is about Parliament, and Parliament should take its course.
Thank you very much, Habib, for your sentiments. Dismas.
The Cherera 4, they've done many errors of both omission and commission. The first one they did is to disassociate themselves from the results that Mr. Chebukati was going to pronounce, that I was about to declare Dr. William Ruto as the winner. They ran away from Bomas. They did a quick dash to Serena, and they said, Mr. Chebukati is about to make a declaration, and we are not associated with that declaration. Now, the same declaration was upheld by the Supreme Court, because later on, when the petitioners said that these results are unfair, they're not credible, the Supreme Court pronounced it itself, and he said that this declaration is very solid. Then number two, Ishmael Nyeriba said that President Ruto must not participate in this process. But having gone through the list of the petitioners, nowhere does President Ruto appear as a petitioner. Those are Kenyans who have got issues with the Sherera 4, and they want them to be kicked out of office. And in my view, if the Sherera 4 have got clean hands, that are beyond reproach, like Caesar's wife, they must subject themselves to the rule of law and order. They must subject themselves to the competent authorities. If indeed they're clean, they'll come out vindicated and they'll smell like a red rose. But if they are guilty, then they must face the music. And in my view, their behavior was a threat to our national security. I've said it this times above number, and I have the alacrity to repeat it today. Because people have gone through an electoral process, there is a tension in Kenya, there is tension in the air which you can almost touch. Then on the 11th hour, they say, wait a minute, these people are cooking results. Those results are fake. Those results are null and void. Now, because of the tension, there was a probability that Kenya could easily slide into something that we don't even want to think about. They were a threat to our national security. And when they were pushed further to present their case, they were reading statements that from the body language, they were not even convinced. So in my view, if the National Assembly is going to act on the petitions, let them do. If we need to form a tribunal, let it happen. But we must be guided by the rule of law and order. We cannot afford to have public servants who think that they want to serve some sectarian interest, and then they claim to be serving our national and public interest. I would even venture that outside the National Assembly process and maybe a tribunal, now President Ruto needs to step in and appoint a commission of inquiry, because you understand that the affidavits of Chebukati, there were suggestions that there were public servants of rank from the defense sector, from the security sector, who were hovering around Bomas, breathing on Chebukati's neck. That they wanted the Chebukati to make a pronouncement which was not consistent with the will of Mora, with the will of Wanjiro, and with the will of Sadia. Those are very, very serious allegations that they need to be put to rest. So in my view, there is need of having a commission to investigate all those, because the Supreme Court has already pronounced itself. The Supreme Court was not sitting as a criminal court, the lawyers may advise, but the issues raised by Chebukati, that he was almost held at gunpoint to subvert the will of Mora, must be investigated via commission. And
that is according to the affidavits that they filed before court. Yeah. And they also, the same public servants submitted their own affidavits.
Exactly.
Esbon.
That's what I wanted to say, that Dismas is giving us just one side of the story.
No, I was answering the question.
Yes. No, answer the question with one side of the story.
You didn't give me guidance on how to answer the question.
Yeah, I did. I'm just giving the other side, yeah? You see, there were allegations by Chebukati, and he did an affidavit and all that. But there were also counter affidavits, you know. Whereas we're talking about public servants getting involved, they clearly stated the reason why they were involved and how they were involved. We also have affidavits that are talking about, and guys who've responded to Chebukati's allegations, who are talking about being approached by commissioners who went as auctioneers. And that is in the public domain. And you see, this thing is a very thin line, you know. If the tip had gone the Azimio way, what would we be saying about Chebukati? And you think that is the crux of the matter. That, you know, the moment we subject this thing to our political expedience and positions that we take on the political arena and say that the president has to come in, then we are running away from the due process of the law. Actually, the pronouncement of the Supreme Court already absolves these commissioners because they were not found guilty of doing anything wrong by the Supreme Court. So why would politicians who believe that they have numbers start behaving like these three commissioners were pushing this country on the brink? They were not, because essentially there were so many parties that were involved. When Chebukati was acting unilaterally and giving them housekeeping jobs, that was not a threat to national security. I think we've gone beyond this fear appeal thing of threatening Kenyans that, 2007, 2008 will happen. Kenyans have since matured. So no one should tell us that, it was a national security. Kenyans wanted an election that was free, fair, transparent, and verifiable. We didn't get that election, but the Supreme Court made a determination. It is a time to heal, not to start witch hunting and hounding people out of office because of the moral conviction that they had to take a stand on something that all Kenyans know happened in this country, and the Supreme Court made a determination.
But we didn't get the election, you mean?
Pardon?
I heard you say we didn't get the election. Anyway, Dennis, there's just a clarification. You know, this man is very good at trying to relegate me to some place I don't even belong. What I said, and I will just repeat very briefly because of time. I think the legal processes should take place. I am absolutely in harmony with that, because honest, fair legal processes will bring justice, which every other side will be happy. Both sides will be happy with. But in the whole process, what I am really rooting for is fairness. You saw a senior advocate called Gitonga, who was the chair for the Legal Affairs Committee, conducting the processes in such a manner as to suggest, I give you a chance to talk, but I'm already decided. I mean, okay, fine, you want to walk out, no problem. Then next, okay, you are okay. I mean, that is, and everyone who has been to, no, not even law school students, I mean, everyone can see that you are so determined that the process should go this way. And that is okay, because at least that is from one side of the, no, it's okay. From Kenya Kwanza side, that's what they want. I mean, they want the process to be so choreographed that it's going that way, such that any other opinion is a relegation, like what Mr. Mokwa is trying to say, that the process. Who said the commissioner will, I mean, the tribunal must be, created, that is okay. And then they will choose, the chairman, and then the rules, and then the whole process. There is the other aspect that it will also go to court. Now, when it goes to court, the Supreme Court determination is not a bar to the judges of the High Court to listen to any matter being brought before them. So they will listen to this matter like fresh, like all those affidavits we are talking about, they will be properly produced in the High Court. And then we will have a very interesting scenario where now, people are also watching. And that's where you see Raila referring to people can also resort to other constitutional means to bring about what they want. So instead of taking us there, this is where I'm coming from. You have won, you are the head of state, leave it to the people who are concerned. Yes, you may have a view, let the normal process take shape, irrespective of your comments or your tweets, let the normal, in fact, you energize or you fortify a honest legal process when you keep off as head of state. That way then, I mean, I can talk freely, but when you come in as head of state and the judiciary knows the head of state, the tribunals know the head of state, then they will not be at liberty and freely make their own submissions and comments. So that is what I mean. I do not mean that the legal process cannot be put together so that the Cherera 4 can be removed or retained.
And I come to you back, Dismas, now. With the president's comments appearing to suggest as though he is championing the rule of law to take place, and also the numbers that he enjoys in both houses, doesn't it look like that the president is in one way or the other telling his forces to do this the way I want it? Because that is how it appears out there.
Fortunately, Kenya is a very strong constitutional democracy, and the nation is working at building very strong institutions, very strong systems. It's only in Kenya where a Supreme Court has told a president to take a walk, that after an election, the president was told, no, this thing was not free, fair, nor credible, go back. And in my view, that is what must happen, that we must encourage the building of very strong institutions, very strong systems, that as a nation, we do not rely on personalities. That if we start relying on personalities, then we are going to become a state which is very complicated. Which is the reason why, when I was discussing about the Supreme Court matter, I made a reference to Nyaribo because he's a lawyer and he practices law. So it's in that context that I do not want to discuss it further, because, he's the one to advise us. But however, you remember, part of the petitions did not suggest that can you establish whether the Cherera 4 are guilty or not. It was to determine whether the declaration as made by Chebukati reflected the will of Amura, and the Supreme Court made a determination. So in my view, the Twitter altercation between President Ruto and Raila Odinga is a very good thing for our democracy, because these powerful politicians are expressing themselves, and President Ruto is saying that we shall abide. We are placing a premium on the rule of law and order, while on the other hand, Mr. Raila Odinga said, wait a minute, this gentleman wants to take us back to where we've come from, and we are going to remain awake, and if you do anything which is not aligned with the Constitution, he has threatened mass action. Mass action that a part of his governors have said, wait a minute, at this stage we need to build the nation. We are not very keen in mass action. Now, what was Mr. Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, and Kalonzo Musyoka doing at the National Assembly during that hearing? Shouldn't they have also immunized themselves from that process? Because as soon as they made a presence into the chambers, conversations which were going on in a very structured, a very stellar manner, all of a sudden, all the members of the National Assembly and the committee was started speaking to Mora, Nyambura, and Atieno instead of focusing on the issue. So if some of the panelists think that by President Ruto expressing himself on a tweet message is making a mistake, I'm not sure that they also find the fact that these three Azimio leaders, outside expressing themselves on Twitter, they actually made a physical presence, and they were urging on their supporters to make declarations, and after that they did a news conference, which in my view is a good thing, because the opposition cannot be in a vacuum, and in my view Raila Odinga is doing a stellar job in that.
I think
let us make it clear that the fact that the names of politicians are not in that petition does not really mean that they are not involved. And I think we sit here not really to attack each other or to defend any position, but just to illuminate what is going on. So when one of us says that, you know, President Ruto's name is not there and therefore is not a petitioner, it is an insult to the intelligence of people who can see what happens in our political administration.
What is the correlation and comparison between Raila Odinga and William Ruto? Are they equal? Under the Constitution today, no. In terms of leadership. In terms of, you know, whether we are all equal before the law, yes. So when we say the president should at least step back, you cannot make a counter, you know, comparison that even Raila Odinga should. Now, as we are, there is in pecking order, there is who is the head of state, and there is who is
the symbol of national unity.
On that note, let's take a short commercial break. It's heated in here. When we come back, we continue with what made news this week. See you in a few.